What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Rustomod. In the last episode, you saw us chop up our 1950 Willys to be able to fit the body of our 1950 Willy onto a modern Jeep Wrangler frame. So we ended up cutting the frame, extending it 11 inches, and we just set the body onto it for the first time. So now we're going to show you guys what power plant we're going to go with our Jeep Willys build. So like I said in the first episode of the Willys build, we're actually going to use a Volkswagen TDI diesel engine in this, and it's a really common swap for a lot of Jeeps. Our TDI engine is actually a fully mechanical version where it uses the same injection pump as a Cummins diesel or some kind of other more common small diesels. But our injection pump actually wasn't functioning whenever we got the motor, so we had to get it taken apart and sent out so that way it could be rebuilt, and when we get it back, it's ready to go. But before we take the whole thing apart, we want to make sure that this thing fits into our Jeep Wrangler frame. And that way, whenever we get it back, we can just put it together and it'll be ready to go. Turn the key and it should be able to run and drive. So we have it outside. Now we're going to pressure wash it, clean it all up, and we're actually going to paint it. So that way all the grime and dirt that has been on this thing for a bunch of years is no longer on it, and it looks pretty good whenever you pop the hood of our Willys Wagon here. So we got it all painted up. So now let's bring it inside so we can start working on this thing. Alright, so this is the motor and transmission that we're going to use with our TDI Jeep. It actually is a Chevrolet 700R4 transmission, which if you're not familiar is a mid-90s really common transmission that you could get. We're also using a 241C transfer case, the same one that we used in our C10 build.
The plan here is that we got the 19 TDI. It has a manual injection pump on it. So we're going to mount that to this 700R4 4-speed automatic. So mechanical injection pump, mechanical overdrive. So not electronics, no electronics required on the 4-speed lock-up torque converter. So the idea here is we've got a 241C transfer case. Typically it was in like a mid-80s to mid-90s GM trucks. I'm going to use it in the Jeep, but you'll notice on the back end of it, this has a slip yoke. So we literally have 10 inches from the end of the shaft to the case of lost drive shaft length. Much shorter wheelbase vehicle with the Willys. So we're going to put a slip yoke eliminator kit on there. This is Tom Wood's custom drive shaft. In case you guys are interested, this is for a 241C, so that's the model found on the Chevys and the GMs. The 241D is used in the Dodge. So what we're using for the conversion, the adapter plate, diesel conversion specialties, we've used them before on a thumb and swap that we had done a couple years ago that we're going to get back into here shortly. We're going to swap that motor out with the different Cummins. But anyway, these guys handle all types of diesel conversions. So get the adapter plate in the kit, bag of hardware, more hardware, flex plate, adapter plate, starter, and this is the crankshaft adapter to the flex plate. So that's what we got. That's what we're getting ready to put together. Make sure all this stuff holds together. Looks like it should go together pretty nicely.
All right, so let's start putting this diesel conversion specialties kit onto our TDI motor. So first we have to install the conversion adapter plate, and we're just putting this on by hand right now just so we can fit up the transmission to see what's going to fit. Whenever you guys go to install it on your ride, make sure you guys torque everything to the specs that are in the instructions. But we're just slapping this thing on real quick, making sure everything fits up before we start getting too far into the build. So now the next step is to install the crankshaft adapter. So this is going to adapt the TDI crankshaft to the flex plate that we're going to use for the Chevy transmission. So that way you don't have to source any special parts or anything like that. It's a pretty nice piece. So we install that so we can get ready to install our flex plate that we're going to use. Now once we install the flex plate, that's pretty much it for the conversion kit. It's a really nice kit. They also give you a starter and some other bolts and hardware and stuff like that. Once we torque all the bolts down, it's pretty much ready to go, so we can begin to fit our 700 R4 transmission onto our Volkswagen TDI diesel engine. Definitely a weird combination, and we were kind of nervous at the beginning to think if this transmission is too big for this motor, but they make this kit, so I assume somebody out there has done this, and the TDI makes quite a bit of torque, so we'll see how the TDI does. We'll definitely be putting it to the test. Alright, and that's it. Our Chevy transmission is bolted to our Volkswagen TDI engine. Kind of funny, the TDI is really small with this transmission behind it, so it's definitely a really unique looking motor setup, but that's pretty much how it goes together. So now we can start trying to put this motor and transmission combo into our Jeep. We bolted a transfer case to the back of it just so we can kind of get where the transmission mount has to be. Obviously neither one of these motor or transmission has come out of this Jeep, but we just wanted to kind of get a rough estimate of where everything has to line up. So we started lowering it down, and it's just kind of a weird motor where it's a front wheel drive style car. So it's a really small motor, but all the accessories are off to one side, and it ends up being our driver's side. So we ended up having to trim some stuff and trying to get everything to fit perfectly so we can see where everything has to fit. But there's definitely some clearance issues that we're gonna have to take care of. Alright, so now we got our motor kind of positioned where we wanted it in the frame. Now we did have to trim a bunch of stuff, so we thought we could use the Jeep motor mounts originally, but that's not going to work. As you can see, our turbo is hitting the motor mount on the passenger side. And on the other side, you can see our alternator is hitting the motor mount on the driver's side. So both those are going to have to be cut out, and we're going to try to just see what we can do with motor mounts. It's kind of a really odd scenario with a front wheel drive style engine being so far back because it's such a little engine. So you can see from the front where the core support normally mounts to the motor, you could actually fit another one of these TDIs right in front of it. So now we're going to try to drop the body down onto the frame just so we can kind of get an idea of where everything's going to sit, because we don't really know if the transmission is going to clear our transmission tunnel on the Jeep, and we want to do the least amount of body work as possible. The transmission looks like it should be in a good spot. It sits pretty low, but not low enough where it's going to bottom out on anything. But just to be sure, we're going to drop it down so that way when we go to make our motor mounts and our cab mounts and everything like that, we can get it dialed in, so that way everything is perfect clearance when we go to weld this thing up for real. Alright, so now let's drop the body down onto our frame with our motor in it and see what everything is going to look like. Alright, so first test fit of the body on the frame with the motor in it. It's kind of crazy how far down that motor is, and how much room we have in front of it. But that's how tiny that thing is. There's even room for the transition tunnel behind it, but it looks like we're hitting the transfer case on the bottom of the floor a little bit. It's not much, and then looks like it should fit pretty good. So the only thing we have to make is the motor mounts and modify the transmission mount. Should be coming together pretty quick. Alright, so now that we fit our engine, transmission, and transfer case into our Wrangler frame, we can begin to design motor mounts for the TDI engine and a transmission mount for our 700 R4. Then we can go and design the body mounts and all the other mounts that we have to make to bring this project together. If you guys like builds like this and you guys like the Rustomod channel, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. It really helps us out so we can continue to do more awesome builds like this, and we can interact with you guys down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think of the build. And we post Jeep videos every Friday, so make sure you guys stay tuned so you can see what we're going to do with this thing next. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.